I turn to the issue of Portmore. The current arrangements with respect to the governance of Portmore, emerged out of a highly consultative and democratic process, led by the people of Portmore themselves. We feel strongly that the people of Portmore must be the ones to decide whether they want to give up their status as a city municipality or not. After all, Portmore enjoys unique participatory governance innovations, such as they get to directly elect their mayor. They're the only community in Jamaica that does that. And the inclusion of community stakeholders in the committees of their council, which is provided for by their charter, is also a unique feature. There is no other municipality which directly elects its mayor. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, a fundamental change which would deprive them of those rights should not be foisted on them by the government of the day. It must not be used as a backhanded device either to adjust electoral boundaries. It must not be used as a backhanded device to adjust electoral boundaries. Where is the member for Southwest St. Catherine? Where is he? Because he is the one. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Present. There's a point of order.
My point, Mr. Speaker, I'm standing on a point of order. I am a resident of Portmore. No, I'm not going to say it.
So we don't move on.
I am a resident of Portmore. And I have to say, the leader of opposition is misleading the House. My member of Parliament is a member of my member of Parliament. I am able to vote for a member of Parliament, and I am not able to vote for a mayor.
I don't know what you're talking about, member. I don't know what you're talking about. But the Local Governance Act provides for the election of the mayor of the city municipality of Port. Well, I'm not talking about her. Mr. Speaker.
Members.
Mr. Speaker.
Members. Members, we are still in this house, and we are asking that we conduct ourselves in a way I will rule according to how it is supposed to be done. The leader of the opposition is on his feet. A point of order is raised. I cannot tell you what the point of order is until we hear. So allow me to rule accordingly. You may continue, sir.
Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that the people of Portmore have the right to elect the mayor of the city municipality directly. There was a separate ballot in the local government elections in February last year. They voted for their councillor, and they voted separately for their mayor. And we are saying that for them to be deprived of that right.
Mr. Speaker, again, the leader of the opposition is misleading the people of Jamaica. I voted in the local government election, and I was only able to vote for a councillor. There was no separate ballot to vote for a mayor.
Mr. Speaker, I cannot speak to the particular circumstances of that member. I am making a general point, an accurate general point. She must know why she can't vote. Mr. Speaker, I wish to move on, if I may. Mr. Speaker, the approach being taken by this government to the establishment of Portmore as a parish, the approach being taken by this government to the establishment of Portmore as a parish is a dangerous incursion into long-settled processes for re-establishing electoral boundaries. The act that was passed, which establishes the Portmore parish boundary, does not integrate with the existing electoral boundaries. The Constitution does not allow constituency or divisional boundaries to span parish boundaries, so it will necessitate a realignment of the constituency and electoral boundaries to align with the parish. Mr. Speaker, the gerrymandering motives behind this initiative were publicly expressed by a former member of the cabinet of this government and have never been refuted. Never. Mr. Speaker, we strenuously argued and then voted against the legislation, primarily because the legislated boundaries of that new parish will necessitate realigning several constituency and divisional electoral boundaries without the settled processes of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica having first been engaged and in violation of the requirements of the Constitution. Profound concerns with this approach have also been raised by the present and a former chairman of the Electoral Commission, by a former director of elections, all of whom have made it clear that if the implementation of the legislation is not halted, it will result in a constitutional crisis. Mr. Chairman, the chairperson of the People's National Party has written to the minister with responsibility for local government, in whose name the bill was tabled and who piloted the legislation through this House, to seek certain assurances in this regard. None have been forthcoming. Mr. Speaker, since 1980, Jamaica moved to establish an electoral system in which important decisions to do with constituency boundaries are vested in the ECJ, which has bipartisan representation. The convention since then has been that decisions which result from the processes of the CCJ being followed are implemented with bipartisan support in this House. This institutional innovation has contributed greatly to the elimination of political violence in the country. It is very sad to see this government going down a path that will undermine this transformational national achievement. And I urge the Prime Minister to ensure that as part of his legacy to Jamaica, this inconceived legislation is not brought into effect. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, in the meantime, yesterday we filed suit in the Constitutional Court to strike down the legislation. We regard the pursuit of this legislation as a dangerous affront to Jamaica's democracy, which must be vigorously resisted by all lawful means at our disposal. Mr. Speaker, in the 80-year history of electoral politics in our country, I have never heard any Prime Minister before this one, whether PNP or JLP, declaring in an ominous tone that the opposition must not return to power. That injunctive statement, repeated several times in recent weeks, carries a veiled threat to our democracy. The emergence of this threat was already presaged by previous unconstitutional conduct, like procuring pre-signed letters of resignation when appointing senators, like putting the newly appointed Chief Justice on probation, and the attempted legislative gerrymandering of the electoral boundaries of Portmore. The narrative that this government must stay in power only smacks of desperation. And it is an imminent danger to everything that Jamaicans have fought for over the centuries. Such statements foster that feeling of unease, the most uncomfortable feeling that the will of the people may be undermined. No politician or government should set that tone in our democracy. I am putting the Jamaican people on alert. I am putting the Jamaican people on alert to protect the most cherished right fought for by our people, which is the right to choose their government, to vote out the one which has proved that it is no longer deserving of respect. That is a right they have.